Yo, what is up, my Knights of the Round Table? Welcome back to Fright Night with the Knight. This is Scary Moments in Non-Horror Games by C-Shift. Link in the description below of the video. Requested by Under the Umbrella. Let's get it. Very excited to see this. This is Scary Moments and non-scary games. So
game surprises me when it subverts my expectations, throws me a curveball, and leaves me wondering if I'm playing the same game.
Has to be on
now, what do I mean by this? Well, there are two ways to look at it. In the first scenario, you might buy a game that looks average at first glance, but pump in a couple of hours, then hours turn to days, days turn to weeks, weeks turn to months, and you soon realize that you've just discovered a gold mine. It's a fun little revelation that teaches you not to judge a book by its cover. Unless it's one of these. But then you have the second scenario. Let's say you buy Super Mario 64. Now, without any prior knowledge of the Mario series, you can take one look at this cover and predetermine that this is going to be a vibrant, bouncy, and mostly lighthearted adventure featuring the titular character. And you'd be right. But then you get to the level known as Big Boo's Haunt. Immediately, you can tell that something's not right.
Oh yeah,
Compared to the rest of the levels, Big Boo's Haunt takes a drastic tonal and thematic shift. The colors are far more muted, the music is filled with unsettling ambience, and as soon as you're dropped in the level, you're immediately greeted by a behemoth of a haunted mansion equipped with torches for dramatic effect. And just like a character ripped straight out of a horror movie, you head inside because nothing bad happens from opening a conspicuously creepy door. But then, shit hits the fan. You've got a library with books flying off the shelves, a merry-go-round-esque room with a levitating eyeball in the center.
Wait, what happened?
And Boo's lining up
I didn't
every
see it.
corner
What happened?
trying to...
There is an eyeball and there is a merry-go-round room, but the eyeball is not in the center of it. I just wanted to put this up before the comments crucify me. I feel you on that one, C-Shift. I feel you. Comments are ruthless. Y'all are ruthless sometimes.
Boo's lining up every corner like they're trying to sell you cheaply made sunglasses for $40. That last one really resonates with me. But luckily, there's light at the end of the tunnel, as you get a moment of respite in a room with a seemingly innocuous piano. It even gets its own spotlight. Looks tranquil. Let's check it out.
Oh no!
And it was at this moment that my 7-year-old self developed an immense fear of avant-garde piano. This utterly meticulous second example is what I'm going to be talking about today. It's when games that aren't predominantly labeled as horror games decide to take a more sinister turn, leaving you with a shocked reaction, a flurry of scared emotions, and possibly a few years of therapy. It's like trying to milk a cow only to realize it's a bull, but it's not a bull either. It's your next door neighbor. So today I'm talking about the scariest moments in non-horror video games. And yes, I know I'm a bit late for Halloween, I'm sorry. But use this video as a form of respite, because for the next 2 or 3 months, depending on where you live, Mariah Carey's dominating the radio, and all she wants for Christmas is that absolutely fucking stacked royalty check.
Oh, God. $2.5 million! What the fuck am I doing with my life? I need that kind of money, fuck.
Keeps on giving. Enjoy!
The gift that keeps on giving for sure. Far Cry 5! Oh yeah, I remember this. Ain't that the Pennywise one?
Far Cry 5 is a pretty wild game, especially in comparison to the rest of the series. Mind you, this is a game that lets you fight alongside a diabetes-stricken bear known as Cheeseburger, has a side mission in which you collect bull testicles in a comically violent fashion, and allows you to use a shovel as a makeshift spear, which, funnily enough, is actually seen as one of the best weapons in the whole game.
It is. It's a shovel call.
You can call Far Cry 5 many things, but subtle is not one of them. So whenever something more unsettling occurs, it really sticks out. If you want a prime example of this, look no further than the O'Hara haunted house located in the Hindon River
it's Pennywise!
region. Firstly, you'll discover a note on the front of the building from the titular owner himself, O'Hara. He details how he's been watching the ongoing warfare between the cult and the resistance, and that he's left some goodies for anyone with enough courage to go through this haunted house. Now, normally, I'd pass. Haunted houses aren't really my forte. But damn it, this place has a prepper stash and I need some perk magazines. Upon entering the eerie building, you're met with an influx of some pretty lifelike animatronics, ranging from zombies, a woman in the midst of a possession, a murderous butcher, and even an upset driver, because nothing is scarier than road rage.
Yeah.
That shit changes a man.
It really
but finally
does.
You make it through unscathed, and what do you know, O'Hara wasn't lying, he really did hook you up with the good stuff. But upon basking in your hard-earned loot, you begin to notice that something seems off.
Yeah.
A little grisly, even. In one of the most shocking instances of environmental storytelling in fridge horror, it's revealed that the animatronics you just saw beforehand weren't just reused assets. They're actually the victims of O'Hara himself that were transformed into makeshift props, made evident by the gore-filled bathtub and the blood-soaked mattress. Holy shit. But that's not it. When you first enter the attic, an overhead light begins to swing violently, implying that somebody just made a mad dash for the exit right before you got in. Couple that with the freshly lit cigarette and the static television, and you can conclude that O'Hara was here just mere moments before you stumbled in.
There's
Hell,
a red
you can
balloon.
even see him peering out the upper attic window if you get lucky. But it's still not quite over. Next to the bloodstained mattress, you can find a rather chilling note titled Clown Thoughts, coupled with a red balloon, which is a clear-cut reference to the 2017 adaptation of It, which released just a year prior. But perhaps the most disturbing thing here comes from the ringing phone in the room. Answer it and you'll hear this.
Love this Easter egg.
Now, Ubisoft generally doesn't put this much time and effort into a single location, let alone an entire game, which is one of the many reasons that the company has been criticized by the hardcore gaming community. However, I think it's fair to say that O'Hara's Haunted House is a testament to the fact that, when they want to, Ubisoft can craft a compelling, immersive, highly detailed, and downright terrifying location for the player to explore.
Oh, not the fucking jump scare. Oh my gosh, dude. I was 14 when this game came out. About to be 15, and that
Batman
fucking
Arkham Knight
scared
is the
the shit
concluding
out of
entry
me.
in the highly acclaimed and influential Batman Arkham series. It's a series that successfully blended all of Batman's most compelling attributes into a kick-ass collection of games, not to mention the knockout performances of Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill as Batman and the Joker, respectively. Something I've always loved about the Arkham games was the fact that they rarely ever shied away from the more tonally dark aspects of the Batman universe. And as you can imagine, there are a surprising number of disturbing and downright horrifying moments. Take Arkham Asylum's morgue scene, for example, or Scarecrow's secret hideout in Arkham City. Pretty disturbing moments for sure. But Arkham Knight takes the cake when it comes to moments in video games that get right under your skin. And for those of you who've played the game, that pun was 100% intentional. There's the terrifying opening in which one of Scarecrow's goons infects a cop with his fear toxin. There's the copious amounts of Joker hallucinations that Batman experiences throughout the game. There's the Professor Pig side quest, which sees Batman exploring the origin of ominously strung-up bodies throughout the city, accompanied with eerie classical music. It's at least good to know that Professor Pig is a man of strong musical taste. But might I recommend alternative? But those moments pale in comparison to what is by far the best and most unnerving side quest in the Arkham series, Creature of the Night.
Yep, Man-Bat, I knew it.
A character that was rumored to be in the series as early as 2011's Arkham City.
Okay, I don't want to talk over Mr. C-Shift here, but I believe that legend that Man-Bat was in Arkham City. I was one of those kids, man.
But was debunked by Rocksteady themselves. That being said, they eventually answered the wishes of the fans because Man-Bat's first appearance in Arkham Knight was unexpected, to say the least.
The Joker turns around and recreates
we're going there. The entire questline initiates by giving the player one of the greatest and most unexpected jump scares in gaming history. Let me remind you that this can occur randomly by grappling on almost any building in the Miyagi
That's how you get
section
around
of the map in the early hours of the game. Luckily, this only happens once throughout the whole questline, but it's still a terrifying jump scare. It's one of the primary reasons as to why I haven't clicked on that tempting New Game Plus button. But it's not just the jump scare that keeps the player on edge. The whole questline is downright disturbing. The first thing you have to do is obtain a blood sample from Man-Bat by positioning yourself above him and landing on top of him. After doing this, you can track down his lab and analyze what happened, and the results are pretty damn horrifying. The identity of Man-Bat is revealed to be Dr. Kirk Langstrom, a scientist plagued by a chronic case of not listening to authority, society, or your bullshit. Because he's deaf. So in order to...
I knew it! I knew you were going there! I fucking knew it! Yeah, because Langstrom's deaf. He was trying to cure deafness via bats.
Fix his acute hearing problem, he decides to perform the ambitious undertaking of merging human DNA with vampire bat DNA, and that goes about as well as you can imagine. He transforms into a bloodthirsty and ravenous hybrid between a human and a bat, and in an uncontrollable state ends up killing his own wife. Now he soars through the sky as Man-Bat, letting out a terrifying screech for everyone to hear. The environmental storytelling in this particular segment is absolutely masterful, and does an impeccable job at giving the player an eclectic mix of dread, sorrow, and tension. Combine this with the video detailing the events of what happened, and you have a scene that's both depressing and grim at the same time. Not to mention that this place is absolutely trashed. It looks like a rat's nest, or should I say, a bat's nest. I hate myself.
Hey, come on, I like puns. Come on, you got the right audience.
Potentially prevent Langstrom from furthering his animalistic rampage. Do this a couple of times, and Man-Bat finally succumbs to the antidote, and on his way to the GCPD, transforms back into Kirk Langstrom.
That's the most heartbreaking
Upon coming to his senses, Batman informs him of what happened, leaving Langstrom in mental anguish as he mourns the loss of his wife. But is she really dead? You can head back to the lab after completing the mission and find the words, "Forever my love," etched onto a TV. And when scouring the lab, you realize that Francine's body is nowhere to be found. What does this mean? Well, many players theorize that shortly after she was attacked by Man-Bat, Francine had mutated into a horrific creature very akin to the one that Kirk transformed into, known as She-Bat in the comics.
Yep.
But we're still not done. Clearly, the developers realized just how much of an impact this side mission would have on players. Because if you set your console's clock to October 31st, or, just play the game on Halloween, everything will seem initially unaltered and innocuous, until you grapple up a building and discover that Man-Bat has escaped from his confines. Head back to the GCPD, and a guard informs Batman that Langstrom transformed back into Man-Bat and broke out of the prison glass. You wanna know the scariest part? If this happens to you, Man-Bat is unable to be found in the game again, and you cannot return him to the GCPD, with the implication being that he's out there, lurking in the shadows of Gotham City. How fucking horrifying. But on the contrary, in LEGO Batman 2, you can find him in the cathedral, beat his ass in 3 hits, and then buy him for 500,000 studs in an act of merciless revenge.
Yeah. Oh, I remember this mission! Yeah, that one freaked me out when I did the Let's Play on here. Yeah, I remember this damn one. The Ghost
Speaking
Droid.
of LEGO, let's start this next entry on a...
I want to say this was based off a Star Wars comic where the droid was a murderer. I think, maybe. I don't know. This was a comic or a fan theory. I don't remember.
Less depressing note, LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga was easily the most ambitious LEGO game to ever be released onto store shelves, letting you traverse through all 9 mainline Star Wars films recreated in that infectiously charming LEGO style.
Missa, run! Missa's gonna die!
Ooh!
With well over 300 characters to unlock, 24 highly explorable planets to get lost in, and numerous jokes and gags that reference both the fan base and the films, it's a game that feels like a love letter to fans while also being a pretty damn good standalone game in its own right.
It's phenomenal.
So naturally, with a game that grants the player as much exploration as the Skywalker Saga,
Favorite LEGO
you'd be
game
pretty
ever.
hard-pressed to find something that wasn't at least a little bit off-putting. Well, look no further, because in the early hours of the game, after beating the mission The Boon to Eve Classic from Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, you'll be granted the ability to explore Mos Espa in the story mode and on your own volition. But eventually, after wandering around, smashing property, and terrorizing the locals for a concerning amount of time, you'll find an unsettling droid patiently waiting outside of a small hut next to Anakin's house with a kyber brick in his hand, before quickly dashing inside. Some might find this ominous and questionable, but I just think he's playing hard to get. So of course, it's time to chase after him, because kyber bricks are used for upgrading your characters, and damn it, I'm 2 bricks away from gaining the ability to distract enemies with a hologram of Jar Jar Binks. That is an investment I want to make.
Exactly.
Upon entering, you're immediately greeted with the protocol droid doing his best Michael Myers-esque
the head
and
tilt.
upon further examination, you begin to realize that this house...
You gotta do it slow, though. Michael has the slow head tilt.
This is as dank, musty, and decrepit as it comes. Spiderwebs decorate the walls, there's a light fog that permeates throughout the house, and the sudden musical shift is enough to keep you on edge. The droid then darts away, and upon following him, you'll find a room with a key. Use the key to open the door, and one of 2 things is bound to happen. Number 1, you'll switch to a protocol droid, or, the only one that matters from a canonical perspective, and then snag yourself an easy kyber brick. Or 2, you'll be like me, so early in the game that you don't have a protocol droid unlocked, giving you the most destructive case of blue balls. Regardless, whenever you finish this quest, you'll notice the dismantled corpse of the mysterious ghost droid. But who exactly is he? Well, in Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, you'll notice a suspiciously similar-looking droid in the background of the scene, where Qui-Gon Jinn, Padme, and Jar Jar Binks enter Mos Espa. Now, for years, this droid was nothing more than a trivial background character, simply used as glorified set dressing to make the scene more immersive and lively. However, when you bring Star Wars Legends into the picture, things become considerably more grim. Star Wars Legends was essentially an expanded universe for the Star Wars series, but instead of being written by George Lucas, it would be officially licensed material made by other writers. I could go into immense detail about how it ties into the Star Wars universe if I really wanted to, but I only have roughly 60 subscribers, and I'd be punching above my weight if this video was 2.5 hours long. Anyway, in the Legends universe, this particular protocol droid was given the name Nobot, or its more commonly recognized nickname in the streets of Mos Espa, the Ghost Droid.
Yeah.
Well, how did it get this nickname? Look no further than a marketplace vendor known as Jira, who for a small fee will give a little bit of insight as to who Nobot really is. According to Jira, Nobot was first seen in Mos Espa decades prior, decorated with scorch marks and dried blood, with his serial number non-existent, meaning that there was no method of identifying this particular droid. What happened, you may ask? Well, from Jira's side of the story, Nobot bore witness to the brutal and vicious murder of a pregnant woman, but some say that Nobot himself was the killer, as indicated by the dry blood and scorch marks that derived from blaster fire. That's not even the worst part, though, as Nobot's speaking unit would allegedly play an audio clip that was recorded during the woman's murder, with nothing but helpless screams and pleas for rescue being used as communication. Holy shit.
This is what I fucking love Star Wars Legends more than I do Star Wars canon. Because Legends, they were not fucking afraid to go beyond the realm of fucked up. Even the Outer Rim stuff, you know, was fucked up. And the zombie shit. Like, this is why I love Star Wars Legends. They were never boring. They pushed the envelope.
Since rated E10+. Nowadays, Nobot does nothing more than perpetually roam across Tatooine, and somehow, despite the harsh and scorching desert, the profuse danger spread across the planet, and the prospect of simply getting lost, he always finds himself arriving in the exact same location every single time, Mos Espa. That's some pretty heavy shit for a LEGO game.
It really is.
Hey, Ayatollah, how about some service over here?
Never played
I need
Postal.
some steaks for the Psychotic Friends Network barbecue.
Postal 2 is one of the most crude, hilarious, and unapologetically offensive video games that I have ever played, and I mean that in the best way possible. It's a fucking bizarre and kind of ingenious concept that was made as a blatant middle finger to the anti-video game crowd. You have to understand that in the early 2000s, video games were the scapegoat for some of the most horrific crimes that were ever documented across the country, with prime examples being Grand Theft Auto, Manhunt, Mortal Kombat, Splatterhouse, and plenty of others.
Damn.
Postal 2, and by extension the previous entry, were meant to combat that ideology. Over time, Postal 2 would sort of regain a bit of a resurgence in popularity after numerous YouTubers uploaded videos of themselves playing this over-the-top and gratuitously violent video game, and since then it sort of developed a bit of a cult following, with an extremely devoted fanbase patiently waiting for the next project. Funnily enough, it's actually one of my favorite PC games of all time. There's just something so captivating and nostalgic about this game that has me coming back to it more times than I'd like to admit. Now, the Postal series hasn't exactly been a stranger to the more horror-focused field, as there are a surprising number of moments that'll leave you wondering if you're playing Postal 2, or the video game equivalent of a Serbian film. Postal 4 has the escape from the backwoods hillbillies. Yes, that's an integral moment in the game's story. There's Apocalypse Weekend in Postal 2. There's Postal 1,
Talking
an
about
extremely
me,
warped
boy.
and morbid video game.
You got a purty mouth. Baby, lock them doors and turn the lights down low. Get the baby oil for some oats to sow. I'm sorry.
Brain Damaged is a psychedelic and twisted experience into the psyche of the Postal dude, and Postal 3 is just so atrocious that it might as well be considered a war crime against the general population.
Yeah.
And if that's not a terrifying state of affairs, then I don't know what is. But good God, none of those compare to the Get Steaks mission in Postal 2. The most humorous aspect of Postal 2 is its deceptively mundane missions. I say
Meet me at
deceptively
Meat
because in
World.
a grand majority of the missions,
Is he
everything
peeing
starts
on
out
him?
in a relatively innocuous and straightforward fashion, only to then culminate with some ludicrously over-the-top scenarios. Take, for example, the very first set of objectives that the game bestows upon you. Get some milk, pick up your paycheck, and cash said paycheck. Simple enough. Well, you go and pick up your paycheck from the same studio that developed the Postal series, which is the most meta shit I've ever seen in a video game.
Nothing personal, man, but you're fired.
I regret nothing.
But I just started yesterday.
Only to then be told that you're fired. Then, immediately after that, a crowd of protesters who advocate against video game violence decide to resolve the issue by storming the development studio and busting out an entire militia's worth of firearms. Getting a little, political now, aren't we? This mission is a rare exception. Instead of beginning or ending in a hilariously obscene fashion like the other missions, you can tell just from the first few steps inside the building that something is a little bit off. The cashier is nowhere to be found, which is probably for the best, considering that I just spent the previous 30 minutes terrorizing the local populace by violently urinating on everyone.
Okay,
but
he is.
venturing
That's
deeper into the
disgusting
meat
there,
shop
R.
reveals
Kelly.
a truly sinister sight. A comically oversized meat grinder turning helpless victims into prime cuts, with murderous butchers encompassing the hulking machine. What ensues is a surprisingly tense fight for your life into the inner depths of the building, because for the Postal dude, the pursuit of man-made steaks, quite literally, is more important than his own life. But to be fair, look at what he has to go home to.
You're done screwing around. I made a list of errands for you on the fridge.
The bitch.
Jesus, woman.
I take it the honeymoon didn't go well. And on top of that, after trying to retrieve
Her
your
name's
steak through
the bitch.
unconventional methods, the cops show up, meaning that you have to fight your way out of the facility as well. Normally, this would be just another comically
Why is the gun
hyper-violent
up the
encounter,
cat's
but
ass?
the lighting, ambience, and overall vibe of the meat factory just cranks the tension to 11. No outlandish humor, mostly. No funny business, just pure unfiltered horror at its finest. Mind you, this is coming from the same game that lets you murder Gary Coleman with an assault rifle plunged right up a cat's asshole.
Why?
Postal 2, keeping it classy since 2003.
Oh, Hogwarts. Yeah, Hogwarts.
Next up, we're looking at the most recent entry on this list, Hogwarts Legacy. Hogwarts Legacy is a love letter to Harry Potter fans, letting you fulfill your wildest fantasies as a spellcasting student at Hogwarts. It's such a whimsical and, dare I say, magical experience from beginning to end. If you're like me, though, one of the most entertaining aspects of this game is using a spell to transmogrify a guy into a barrel and hurl him into enemies like a wand-wielding Donkey Kong. I'm still wondering why Nintendo won't return my emails. However, this is the universe of Harry Potter, which, let me remind you, contains beasts ranging from goblins to dragons to dementors to even a colossal sentient spider named Aragog.
Yep.
Joke's on you, Harry Potter universe, my fear stems from snakes. Oh, fuck. So naturally, you wouldn't be too...
See, Shiv, we're on the same length. Snakes are fucking terrifying. Everybody I know, most people I know besides my parents are like, oh yeah, snakes are kind of cool. No, they're not. They're fucking slithery little fucking death dealers. I don't like them. Ugh, I get the heebie-jeebies just thinking about them.
Out of the ordinary to find something a bit more on the kooky side in Hogwarts Legacy. Case in point, the side quest titled Minding Your Own Business. The streets of Hogsmeade are packed to the brim with shop owners, civilians, street performers, and everything in between who are in need of your help. You'll want to finish a grand majority of these side quests, as they actually yield some extremely beneficial rewards, such as a flight speed increase on your broom, or an assortment of goodies for the Room of Requirement. Explore Hogsmeade and you'll eventually stumble upon a lady named Cassandra Mason. Cassandra is attempting to sell her shop after a sequence of ill-fated tragedies had occurred with the previous store owners. What those specific tragedies were, who knows? But like the cheery fifth-year student that you are, you decide to buy the shop from her anyway because being a wizard is cool, but it doesn't pay the bills. Upon purchasing the shop, you'll be greeted by a house elf named Penny, who bestows you with a key that can be used to open a chest in the back room. What a lovely gift! It's like a welcome to the neighborhood gift basket, but instead of paper towels and nearly expired Chex Mix, you get stuck with a cursed treasure chest. I'll take the Chex Mix, thank you. Yeah. Opening the chest reveals a ladder that descends into an ominous labyrinthian dungeon haunted by a ghost named Fastidio. What ensues is a tense and terrifying descent into Fastidio's paranormal playground, with winding corridors, doors that vanish and then spontaneously re-emerge, and enough mannequins to make someone with automatonophobia succumb to a chronic panic attack. Not even those with epiplophobia, I hope I pronounced that right, are safe, as Fastidio possesses and then tosses furniture like it's not quite his tempo. And in the boss battle against him, he conjures up a beast made entirely out of whatever he can get his hands on, horrifying furniture included. Interestingly, this particular section of the side quests ends in a surprisingly humorous and lighthearted manner, as your character and Fastidio strike up a deal. The student can own and operate the shop, but Fastidio can haunt the shop after 9 p.m. 2 times every month. That is an extremely explicit and defined set of stipulations, but hey, who am I to judge? I just spent a good half hour trying to escape a mannequin maze. I'll take what I can get. Yeah. But it's not quite over. Talking to Penny about the contents of the treasure chest reveals that she knew what was going to happen all along, but out of fear chose not to disclose it with you. She then apologizes, and you're then tasked with telling the local authorities about the matter at hand. It seems like Cassandra deceived the player about all of this, but why? Well, after taking her on in battle, it's revealed that Cassandra's previous tenants were led to a far more disturbing fate. Cassandra never actually gave ownership to those tenants and instead lured them into the chest, causing them to be so fear-stricken that they went mad, subsequently ending with them being taken to a mental hospital. That is one of the most egregious examples of making a quick buck. After defeating her, you're granted ownership of the shop, with Penny choosing to stay and help run the place. You can actually now sell gear to her for a slightly increased price. And while it doesn't seem like a significant difference, it does stack up in the long run. So yeah, a downright terrifying side quest ends in a surprisingly lighthearted and optimistic fashion, so long as you don't enter the shop after 9 p.m. Because that is when Fastidio comes out to play.
Aha! Finally! You, my inordinately clever friend, appear to have traversed this seemingly never-ending dungeon relative...
Cast is Donkey Kong 64. This is before my time. I was born a year later after this game.
Okay, so I don't know what it is about the Nintendo 64, but for some odd reason, a startling amount of games on this console have at least one or two extremely unsettling moments in them. Maybe it's the more primitive and rudimentary graphics that add to the horror that these games can put forth, or maybe the developers were just feeling a little extra sadistic after waking up. I'm not entirely sure,
Probably.
but let me tell you, there is quite a large pool of games I can choose from. I've already mentioned Super Mario 64, and other moments like Clanker from Banjo-Kazooie and the bottom of the well from Ocarina of Time have been discussed so much that it feels kind of excessive to talk about them here. Instead, I'm talking about a Nintendo 64 classic that, at face value at least, is as lighthearted and playful as they come, but diving further into the game reveals a plethora of unsettling moments. That game is Donkey Kong 64.
Here we go.
I fucking love Donkey Kong 64. It's a game brimming with so much personality and charm that it can make even the most cynical of people chuckle in appreciation. Not to mention it's equipped with God's gift to Earth, the audio paragon known as the DK Rap.
He's the leader of the bunch. You know him well. He's finally back to kick some tail.
Wu-Tang Clan, Cypress Hill, Beastie Boys, none of these fucking simpletons hold a candle to the DK crew. Donkey Kong 64 has a truly shocking number of creepy moments. I mean, hell, out of the 8 main levels, 2 of them are dedicated to being intentionally unsettling, those being Frantic Factory and Creepy Castle. And while Frantic Factory has what is easily the game's most terrifying boss by a metric shit ton, it's a particular section of Creepy Castle that takes the cake.
Sorry,
Creepy
once again,
Castle
it's
has
late.
a fairly spooky
I'm gonna point out, I'm not bored with the video or anything. It's just 2 a.m. and I'm tired. That's why I'm yawning, and I still gotta edit after this.
But it also has a somewhat goofy kind of charm to it, to keep it from being total nightmare fuel. I mean, some of the enemies are just King K. Rool's goons who don white sheets to resemble a stereotypical ghost. That's fucking hilarious. Just be glad they're not wearing white hoods. The level is divided into multiple sections for the DK crew to explore, but the area we're fixating on is going to be found on the lower level of the castle, more specifically the catacombs. You'll find the walls decorated with enough bones to give an osteologist a chubby, and winding paths that'll leave you in a state of confusion. Progress far enough, however, and you'll eventually uncover a room while playing as Donkey Kong, with an array of switches forming 2 separate rows. After solving the puzzle associated with the aforementioned switches, you'll head inside the door, and it's at this moment that you realize that Creepy Castle is not fucking around. It starts simple. Squawks tells Donkey Kong that he needs to collect at least 25 coins in order to get a golden banana. Okay, fair enough. You're tossed headfirst into a chaotic and stress-inducing minecart ride that sends you careening through dark, winding corridors, with tombstones popping up at the most inconvenient of times. That's not even mentioning the pulse-pounding music that, while extremely well composed, is ungodly intense for a game about gun-toting monkeys reclaiming their island from an anthropomorphic crocodile. And then it happens. This fucking monstrosity spontaneously emerges in front of you and manages to chase you throughout a grand majority of the ride, equipped with flaming skulls and a nasty set of claws that'll make you lose coins like you made a shit investment in cryptocurrency.
Oh,
so, yeah,
no, not cryptocurrency.
Intense. But then you get towards the end. Thank God. Just kidding, the minecart goes in reverse and you're now sent tumbling back to where you came from, meaning that you're only halfway done with the section. The scariest part is now realizing that you're probably not walking away with 25 coins, but instead a ghastly punch in the groin and a mental breakdown after witnessing anything that's wooden and has 4 wheels attached to it.
Yeah.
With such a nerve-wracking experience that you just endured, you'd probably assume that the boss battle of Creepy Castle would make this section look like it's a small world in comparison. Okay, bad analogy. But no, in a comedic twist, the game subverts your expectations by making the final boss a crudely drawn cardboard facade of King K. Rool, nicknamed King Cutout. And well, that plan works just about as successfully as you can imagine, which is to say it was a futile attempt.
Ah, the ghost of Agnes Dowd.
Hello, girl.
Lady.
For the final entry on this list, I'm looking at a moment from Rockstar's Wild West-themed magnum opus, Red Dead Redemption 2.
Phenomenal
Red Dead Redemption 2 is one of the greatest and most ambitious games of all time, if you ask me. With a budget of roughly $500 million, the highest budget for any video game as of right now, it's no surprise that the open world scene in the game was crafted with extremely meticulous and mind-boggling attention to detail. It is a miracle that we even got a game like this in the first place. With the map being as massive as it is, it shouldn't be a shocker to know that you can find quite a lot of memorable locations, characters, and events within the game. Some are absolutely hilarious, such as the side mission Oh Brother, in which 2 competitive siblings attempt to woo a potential love interest by beating one another. Others are a bit more on the mysterious
I
and
love this
unorthodox
one.
side of the coin.
With the
Such
robot.
as the Bright Bouncing Boy, which contains the closest thing to an amalgamation of Frankenstein and Pinocchio. But sometimes you'll find something a bit more mystical or paranormal. I've covered an allegedly haunted location seen in the series in a previous video, that of course being Tumbleweed Mansion. In that video, I discussed how there were alleged sightings of ghosts within the mansion, but no recorded instances. Clearly, Rockstar understood that fans wanted to see some tangible evidence of spirits, because when Red Dead Redemption 2 came around, there were a handful of moments that allowed you to do just that. As early as Chapter 4 in the game's story, if you head to the gang's camp, there's a chance that you'll find an audibly and visibly aghast Reverend Swanson, talking about a spectral woman in white that he claims to have seen in the area.
A girl. A ghost of a girl in white.
Agnes down.
I think the alcohol's getting to it, but my morbid curiosity is getting the best of me. Let's check it out. Head on over to Blue Water Marsh in Lemoyne, more specifically in between the B and the L on the map.
Yeah.
And between 9 p.m. and 3 a.m., you'll see the ghostly figure of a young woman meandering around the swampy vicinity. She's noticeably distraught and seems to be mourning over something, but we can't really get the full picture just yet. Now already this is extremely off-putting, especially since the game places a strong emphasis on realism and immersion, so seeing something this out of the ordinary definitely makes it stick out. However, you can revisit this same area, between the same hours of the day, and what you'll discover is a tragically depressing yet disturbingly macabre story about the ghost's past. The spirit's name is Agnes Dowd, a young woman who retells the events of what happened before her disturbing death. Long ago, Agnes fell in love with a married man, much to the dismay of her parents, who did not approve of him. In secrecy, she would meet up with her lover by an old tree in Blue Water Marsh. However, things soon turned sour, as after impregnating Agnes, the man left her to reunite with his wife.
Damn.
This caused an influx of emotions in Agnes, mainly ones of the sorrowful type. Her parents, however, were more on the furious side of things, deeming the man as unworthy of Agnes's affection due to him abandoning her, and, well, you know, dabbling in some infidelity. This would eventually culminate in her father murdering her lover, leading her to go into a state of mental deterioration. This would subsequently end with Agnes allegedly murdering her family, it's not 100% confirmed, and then eventually hanging herself in a state of grief on the tree that she and her lover would secretly converge at,
The fuck?
hoping that someday she may be able to reunite with her lover in the afterlife. That is fucking depressing.
It is.
And honestly, the way that this story is told to the player piece by piece every time you visit the location is absolutely masterful. Not to mention the fantastic performance from her voice actor, Caitlin Bosch. I think that's how you pronounce it. So it's a bit unsettling and extremely somber, but where's the scary part? Well, there's a total of 16 times that you can visit the spirit of Agnes Dowd, and after completing all of those visits, Agnes gives a bit of a newsflash to your character. She knows that you've been watching her the whole time and invites you to come visit her tree. There you'll find the grim sight of Agnes hanging from the same tree that she took her own life with, and after this, she is nowhere to be found in the game. The only thing left is a tombstone left in her honor that reads, Agnes Dowd, age 19,
Damn.
tragically took her life and others. It is a haunting and heartbreaking reminder that not everyone in the Red Dead universe gets a happy ending. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got fish to catch for Jeremy Gill, and damn it, we are gonna catch that legendary catfish.
Oh, yeah.
Get this! Get this! Here he comes! Here he comes! Here comes him!
Does anyone get a happy ending?
No. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I think that was a great video. I do love the picks that he had because, yeah, like, there's nothing worse than having a scary moment. Like I said, like, scary games are bad. Like, they're scary. But there's nothing, I think, having scary moments in non-scary games is worse. It's because it's catching you off guard. Your guard is down. If I'm playing something like Batman, or I'm not expecting a jump scare. Or if I'm playing Red Dead, I'm not expecting to see a ghost talking about a Romeo and Juliet story here. Like, I'm not expecting that. So I agree with his take. I think it's a great video. I think it's a masterful video because, like I said, there's nothing worse when you're playing a friendly game, a nice game, and it's just like the most off the wall, out of pocket Stephen King shit just comes out of nowhere. And I agree with this list. 100%, I agree. Now, let me know what you guys thought. What was the moment from a game that caught you off guard? For me, I have to say it's like what he said. It was Batman Arkham Knight, because I just remember grappling up a building and getting the shit scared out of me. And being scared to grapple up again. But, yes, please tell me in the comments below what you think was the scariest moment. Or what was another game that he might not have remembered, or I might not have remembered. Which game scared you that was not a scary game? Like, what moment scared you in a non-scary game? Let me know in the comments below. Also in the description, like I said in the beginning, there will be a link to this video if you want to see it. So, thank you all so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.